This podcast is brought to you by eHarmony, the dating app to find someone you can be yourself with. Why doesn't eHarmony allow copy and paste in first messages? Because you are unique, and your conversations should reflect that. eHarmony wants you to find someone who will get you. How are you going to know who gets you if people send you the same generic conversation starters they message everyone else? Conversations that actually help you get to know each other. Imagine that. Get who gets you on eHarmony. Sign up today.
Achieving a gorgeous grin from home isn't a total mystery with Bite Clear aligners. Just don't be surprised if all of your sleuthing friends start asking, "What's your secret?" Begin by ordering your at-home impression kit today for only $14.95. Bite Clear aligners are doctor-directed and delivered to your door. Treatment costs thousands less than braces. Plus, they offer flexible financing, accept eligible insurance, and you can pay with your HSA FSA. Get 80% off your impression kit when you use code WONDERY at Byte.com. That's BYTE.com. Start your confidence journey today with Byte.
Hello, welcome. Let's chat. It's hard. You want to talk? I know, that's disappointing. Sit back. Let's work this out. How's it going? What are we doing here? Where are you going? Hey there. Wow. It's not always easy. It's amazing if you think about it. Let's think about this. Strange. I have some thoughts about that. Life is hard. Trauma bonded.
We all agreed really quickly that the title had to be something akin to "What if you could never hit your rock bottom?" And that's going to be the theme of this episode, I think. Mm-hmm. Like, just when you think it cannot get any worse, it does somehow.
Yeah.
So settle in, folks. We're going to be tunneling to the center of the earth, I think, where the rock bottom is. Not sure. You could keep going and just get to the other side.
Rock bottom of the earth.
I wonder what
is the core of the earth.
What's the derivation of rock bottom? Is it like the bottom of a well or something?
Oh, I don't know.
Oh, we should look that up.
Bottom of the rocks, I think.
I know I think in words, but you think in pictures. I picture, when I force myself to picture rock bottom, I think of like a long stone well with a bottom floor.
You're stuck in there.
You're really stuck in there. But
you
can only go up now. Welcome to Trauma Bonded. I'm Elly Westberg here with Therese Garcia.
Hello.
And today we're discussing episode 322 of the podcast. This is actually happening. What if you kept hitting rock bottom? And our storyteller is Jamie. Jamie grows up in a comfy enough Midwest home environment, and a random affliction changes him deeply at 9 years old, and he begins feeling rejected and depressed and withdrawn in school. He finds the Coast Guard after graduation and finally feels like his life is heading in the right direction. After a few years on the job, he suffers a random back injury, and this begins his nightmare opiate journey. His addiction nearly takes everything away from him, including his life and his family. But thanks to his endlessly long-suffering wife, right, and the help of the VA, he finally finds his way out of the rock bottomness of it all and pursues a normal, sober life each and every day. And full disclosure, I'm the showrunner for This Is Actually Happening, and T knows nothing about anything. She comes in fresh. And this show, Trauma/Bonded, is for the listeners, a space where we can talk about each episode, digest it, and reflect on it with empathy and also a bit of levity. That's Trauma Bonded, right, T?
That's right.
T, what stuck out to you as the heart of Jamie's story?
Well, why don't you go first?
Okay. Well, I have a couple hearts of the story. Obviously, and I think these two big moments or two big turning points in his life seem to like set everything up. One being this random sort of illness as a 9-year-old. It feels like it really like sets him back socially and the way he perceives himself. And my second point on that is obviously also when he gets this like random injury on work, it's this idea that in a blink of an eye, everything can kind of go like, I'm doing okay, to, oh shit, this is the start of a road I never anticipated. And then nextly, this wife of his.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll talk about that more deeply. But I mean, if there's a hero of the story, that's in a lot of ways, it is the wife. But this truly is a story of one man's journey to the bottom, and him trying to climb back out. What about you, T?
You know, I just wanted to comment on what you said, though, that, you know, one moment can change everything kind of thing.
Yeah.
I think about that a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, I always feel like you're teetering on something,
Yeah.
you know, but
even he says it himself. He's like, he's gone through all this shit, but still he's so precarious, right? And he knows if one more shoe drops, that's it. And that's what does really send him to the bottom. But it is scary to think. I mean, this is why people are agoraphobic, right? They internalize this fear so deeply that they won't even leave the house because they know it's safe and comfy in the house. And if they step outside, they have a chance encounter with a person or a dog or an injury or whatever it is. And it could change your life irrevocably.
yeah, I think that's a really good observation. I think it can be seen as kind of like negative or pessimistic, you know. But for me, I think it helps just to be grateful that nothing bad has happened yet. Just keep living, you know. But yeah.
It's interesting, too, because it is really sort of the way you view life, right? Some people think I'll leave my front door and what adventure awaits me.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like my partner is like that. Whereas I am more of the pessimist. I'm like, we shouldn't go out there because it's just bad.
Yeah, something bad's going to happen.
You know, just how we take, you know, especially living in the Bay Area, we drive a lot and you're really kind of taking your life into your own hands when you're on the freeway so much. I think about that kind of stuff. Oh, and by the way, T and I are in person today.
Oh, yeah. Hi.
Hi.
Looking at your face.
I mean, looking at your face. Hi. And I'm sitting next to your body.
That's how it works. Sorry, I keep coughing.
Can you smell me?
I was trying to, but now I'm scared.
Go ahead and do your heart.
My heart, maybe it's a bit on the nose, as it happens, you know. But I went with the word hooked.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Obviously, he's hooked. I mean, I was doing the math. He's hooked for like more than 10 years, something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, so, wow, that's a lot. And definitely addiction is a powerful thing. I thought that was a big part of this story. But then also just hooked up with your wife. It's just great. I mean,
he hooked up with the right woman, that's for sure.
He did randomly at the club or whatever. Really,
he got real lucky there.
Really lucky, because anybody else would definitely leave him.
He works on boats, just like hooks on boats.
I was like, you know, if he was a fisherman, it'd be perfect.
It would fit your word.
Work out that way.
But there are hooks on boats.
There's hooks. Yeah, so thanks for that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. Something that Jamie and I talked about a lot is, and I think he suffers from this as well, is this imposter syndrome thing, you know, and I think that him having that childhood illness did really put him on a back foot setting. This whole, like, he's a month behind in all sorts of ways coming back into school, but also he almost sort of like others himself because he has to go to the nurse for medication, etc. And then couple that in with, like, he really wants to be a good athlete, but he's not a very good athlete. Like, you start to see the way that you're, one, not how you perceive normalness to be, but also how not only are you not normal, but you're not exceedingly special either. So I think that really starts to build how you feel about yourself. And then you're forever going to feel like that person. I completely resonated with him so much. I feel like I was always on the back foot because of how I was raised and for other reasons as well. And all you care about is just being perceived as normal.
Yeah.
And just not like the weirdo or different or whatever. And it can really dictate how your life goes from there on. But yeah, he and I talked a lot about that when we talked.
But it sounds like it's almost like the pattern of trauma stopped with his parents. Like they really tried hard to, just to be kind and loving and not let their past dictate how they would parent, or it did in the way that they did, it better or the opposite.
But you can have great parents, maybe even too great of parents, but if you have this like really internal life that you're not sharing with anyone, it becomes really lonely really fast, and it can start to develop the way that you feel about yourself without your parents maybe even knowing,
So scary.
I know it's scary for you.
Yeah, but I'm a big fan of therapy. I guess,
Yeah.
What his mom did was just love him, and I get it.
Yeah. He talks about how his parents were. Do you feel like the way their behavior, the things that he did impart about them or describe about them, do you think that they hugely impacted the way he saw himself? Because I think we usually do talk about how the parents...
It was a bit more confusing.
Yeah.
I think. Because the way he was brought up, and maybe in his younger years, maybe that he doesn't even remember. Because I always think that, the things they don't remember consciously, the way that you talk to them, that might be their inner monologue, So to be really kind and everything you can be as a good parent, loving. But it sounds like they were doing that.
I think it was really that illness, right?
That was a turning point.
It was and I don't think this is made exceedingly clear in the episode, and I think we should do it here. The reason that he characterized his mother as a smotherer was directly due to him almost losing his life and being in the hospital for a month. That is what brought on the excessive, what you would call smothering from his mother. And, he told me a story, like he brought a girl around. It wasn't his wife, but he brought a girl around to meet his parents. And she commented on how like kind of loving his mother was to him. And that's where he had to tell her, well, we went through this really tragic thing that scared her, and so just made her cling to him even more.
Like overly loving.
Overly loving.
Attentive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's like, is that bad? That's not bad. Right? Is that good?
I don't know. Like maybe that determines how his next relationships will be, that he wants them, like nothing, no one will be as good as his mother,
But as we've heard too from Merle last week, you marry your parents or a better version of them. So maybe his mother being such a smotherer and probably an enabler of him, and probably like extra excessively like, oh, don't worry about it, honey, made him seek that out in a partner. And luckily for him, his wife hung in there.
Oh, yeah.
And was this incredible nurturer to him while he was making terrible, terrible decisions over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so he's feeling out of place at school. He's been gone for a month. He was in a hospital for a month. He comes back with, I'm sure, a certain reputation. Oh, the sick kid,
Yeah.
Maybe. He has to take meds at school. He just struggles to be a normal kid. All of a sudden, he's He's probably just becoming more and more insular, or more and more like inside his own head. He loves sports, but he's not very good, so he's bullied by the good athletes, and that's just making him feel rejected and crushed, he describes it as. And he maybe was encountering this depression in adolescence, but, you know, back then there wasn't really such thing as therapy or maybe even meds, and he just let his mother love him. And I think this is a pattern that is going to be repeated in his adult life with his wife, right?
Yeah.
Let his wife love him out of his depression. He's just full of inadequacies, and he feels undesirable. And it does sound like he starts to gain a bit of confidence when he grows into himself, and maybe, you know, and people that he perceives as mates.
I thought you were going to say hotties.
Yeah, the hotties finally start to notice him.
Mm-hmm.
And that's always a good confidence boost. Anyways, his grades suck, so he goes to the Coast Guard. And again, this is like sort of a high time of his life, right? He gets into Coast Guardy stuff, going through basic. And I think this is important. He mentions how important it is to arrive at a place and have a blank slate. Because after this, he never has a blank slate again. He's always carrying and he does it all the time. All throughout the episode, he keeps listing all of the ways that he's failed himself, right? So this blank slate, I'm sure when he looks back on it, it's very like comforting, like that was my blank slate, but also like maybe he has that desire, like, man, if I could just have that blank slate again. You think?
Yeah. No, yeah.
The power of a blank slate.
Yeah. Sounds good, especially after so much suffering.
Yeah. So everything's okay. He's got friends, and he's hot, and he's single, and he's social, and he sheds the self-doubt, and he finds himself a wife at the club. He's got kids. He lives in towns he likes. He builds communities. Like, everything is going so well. And then what
I thought
happens?
this were like the end.
The end.
Oh, please.
Aw. That's a different show, T.
That's a different show. That's not this show.
That is how this is actually happening. And again, I just want to restate. This guy was not asking for the world. He just wanted to be normal, or what he perceives to be normal. I think a lot of us feel that socialization, that need. I just want to fit in. I just want to be normal. This is not a new idea. We all feel it. We all feel like we're not. We assume that the people that we perceive as normal think that they are, but they're probably not either. Like, everyone's just walking around these big balls of pain and hurt and sadness and inadequacies, and rarely does anyone actually feel like they are normal and they just want to be normal, but we all think that everyone else is normal. We're not the normal one, but we probably are just as normal in their mind, or better than whatever.
I feel like your inner dialogue came out.
Am I normal? Are you normal?
I'm not going to say normal.
Do you think of me as normal?
Definitely not. I'm not. Am I?
Normal?
Yeah, more normal than
You're normal.
before.
And I don't mean normal as a bad thing.
Just normal.
I think, just some people have a problem with everything.
Oh, yeah.
And some people just seem to get on with it. And we admire
drama.
Yeah. And these us people with imposter syndrome, or like this internal dialogue, and you're just constantly listing all of the ways you're not normal, or all of the ways that you failed. And it's a repetitive echo chamber of sadness. And that's why it's really hard to escape.
There's an inner dialogue again. Keeps coming out.
So one fatal moment, he moves a fucking section of chain, and he slips a disc, or what does he do?
Herniated disc.
Sounds terrible.
That one moment. That was it.
It changed everything.
Yeah.
I wrote a note, opiates.
Yeah.
That's really...
Yeah, loved it. What is it? What is it?
I mean,
what
opiates.
Is it about opiates?
I don't know. They don't do anything for me. I mean, I can't say that I've never been in severe pain taken an opiate and gone, opiates. So I don't really know. And well, knock on wood, I feel fortunate that. But I take a lot of the way he describes this feeling about opiates, maybe like the feeling of booze. Like, again, I didn't drink till I was 30, but when I discovered $2 Chuck at Trader Joe's, I was like, oh, this is what people do. This is great.
It's pretty awesome.
He talks about his brain being rewired from the excessive opiate use. And I did Google, and I was going to have like a research alert, but you guys, there's a lot of information. So if you want to read about the science behind the way opiates rewire your brain, we're not qualified to talk about that. We're uneducated and just kind of stupid. So but I highly recommend Google for that one. But I did also read a little bit about how booze or alcohol also rewires your brain. And I'll read a little bit of that because it seemed more concise than the other sciencey stuff. The sustained abuse of alcohol causes the brain to adapt and to almost rewire itself around the continuous presence of this chemical substance. This process of change is known as neuroplasticity. The result of these changes is that alcoholics become less able to make good decisions and to practice self-control. So yeah, the same thing happens with, I think, any controlled substance. The excessive use of any substance is going to start to rewire your brain. And that's not good because you want to control your brain the way it is, or the way it was born inside you and the way you've developed it up to a certain point, right?
Oh, well, yeah. And you don't want to have that mentality that if you don't get it, you're going to die.
Dude,
that's just, I mean, because you might not get it and you can't have it forever.
That's why there's always this final ending that's going to come that's not good.
Yeah.
Because you can't, it's not self-sustaining.
It can't. It just gets worse and worse and you need more and more.
And he talks about how it's a slow burn and it's all consuming. And I think the same thing can happen with booze, because even though it's not prescribed, because he kept leaning on this idea that, well, the opiates are okay because they're prescribed by a doctor. But you could say the same thing for booze, in that it's socialized to be a norm. It's socialized to be okay. But there are people that have to have it, and there are people that can have 1 or 2 drinks out on a Saturday night, and it doesn't like run their whole lives. It's like the same sort of idea.
And it's legal. You don't need a prescription.
It's legal.
You can get it at your store.
It's everywhere. You can get it at the store. It's almost easier to get than opiates.
Much easier.
Yeah, it is much easier to get. But there's a difference between taking the edge off socially on occasion versus I need this every day to live or I will be a monster.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm glad that Jamie's come out of it. Addicts are the worst. They're not themselves. They really only exist to get this thing. Mm-hmm. And they are so annoying to be around.
Yeah.
I had this old roommate in Mishawaka, Indiana. It was post-college, I think. And I was living at home, and all I wanted was to not live at home, you know. But I didn't have any money or any prospects or anything. Mm-hmm. And I worked with her at a coffee shop, and she's like, "You can come stay with me." And it was only like $150 a month or something. She had this tiny little apartment, like a.
This was in the olden days in Mishawaka, Indiana.
It was like a little built-in apartment in this bigger house, and I didn't know it at the time when I moved into her with her, but she was a raging cocaine addict.
Oh my God! Oh no!
And she slowly started to let these things out to me, and me then I was like, like everything was scary to me. Yeah. And I remember one night she came home from like going out on a cocaine binge or something, and she kept she had coke with her or something, and she felt like it was all around her, and she kept licking her fingers and like touching the couch, like trying to get any little last bit of coke she could into her. I just remember sitting there looking at her like, you're terrible. This is terrible. Like, and I moved out like the next day. So that lasted.
Is she alive and well?
I have no idea.
Oh my God.
Yeah. They're just not easy people to be around.
Well, I'm sure it's not great to have a conversation or something. Talk about normal. Their only focus is getting more.
Yeah. Like, are they ever actually really present with you?
Yeah.
You just see their mind spiraling like, yeah.
Oh, gosh, yeah. That's a terrible way to live.
It's a terrible way to live.
So up and down, too. Because when you get it, then you're like so happy, but then there's that fear, and then you probably become some sort of hoarder.
I'm sure it changes you in all types of ways. And then you're trying to be around people that love you, and all you can do is for you. So he talks about going different places and always needing the drugs. And I think his first rock bottom, as far as I'm understanding it, is when he makes the fraudulent prescription.
Oh.
And he just amended the number or whatever he did. Seems innocent enough.
He altered the date?
Yeah, there's some... Oh, he needed it sooner or something.
But they saw on computers, I think. You know?
He thought he was pulling something off. He alters his prescription, which does feel like really fraudulent on the face of it.
Yeah.
And
then his wife...
God rest her soul. I mean, she's still alive, but still, God rest her soul. Give her that woman some rest, right?
It's like such a setup.
The cops are called. He's rejected from the care of the people. Is this his rock bottom?
No.
So he goes.
Then he had a good idea.
Double dipping.
Brilliant. It is a good idea.
It's great.
Yeah.
I love it. And then he gets an opportunity to come to Petaluma.
Oh my God. That's
right down the road from us.
Yeah.
T.
Okay.
Here's some NyQuil for your cold. What's one thing you should definitely not be doing when you're on NyQuil? What does it say, like, on the bottle?
Drive?
Thou shalt.
It says it like that?
Not operate
machinery.
Heavy machinery. Everyone knows this.
Mm-hmm.
This, as far as I'm understanding, this guy's entire career is operating
heavy
machinery. So he thinks he's just normalizing himself. But everyone else is saying, you're high as fuck operating heavy machinery. He thinks he's just bringing himself to normal.
Yeah.
But he is. He can't not be impacted by having these drugs on his system. Yeah. And again, this is a strange case because his arc of this abuse is happening around the opiate crisis and the changes in the opiate crisis, which went from doctors and pharmaceuticals like heavily pushing the drugs to, we did too much, people are suffering, let's rein it back in. And the rules start to come out. And then, in the midst of his own addiction is when he gets busted, basically. Like, the powers that be in these places talk to each other. And finally, it's revealed this guy has been on all kinds of meds and been operating heavy machinery. And he can't do it. And he's discharged with discipline from the Coast Guard. And it sends him into deep shame and this feeling of failure. And he has the ultimate support of his wife. But he is sent out of the Army or sent out of the Coast Guard. And is this his rock bottom?
No, not yet. not yet. I mean, he says his life is essentially over, but that's still not rock bottom.
You have a successful long career with an opiate addiction. That's rough. You have no career and still have an opiate addiction. That's getting a little bit rougher. Yeah. That's a hard way to live. So you're poor and directionless and an addict. And kind of an asshole, admittedly, when you can't get your shit. And so what does he do? He quits.
Oh, yeah, he quits. He does quit.
But he picks up something else.
There's always alcohol, right? There's always your old friend.
Alcohol. There's always your old friend, alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
Easy to get.
So easy to get.
Cheap to get.
Yeah. Can do it anytime.
They sell you all kinds of apparatuses to hide it on your person.
Yep. The morning,
night. There's ways to cover up your breath. I mean,
it's too easy.
It's too easy. He decides to go back to school on the GI Bill.
Mm-hmm.
And he's nervous. So what does he use to calm his nerves?
It does calm your nerves.
Calms you right out of your classroom is what it does.
Even hearing. I'm just feeling so calm. I don't even need to go to class. I don't even need to go to college.
Drops out. This is rock bottom?
Not yet. Still not. But he keeps trying. That's the thing. You hit all these rock bottoms because you're trying new things. You're trying, you're hoping and trying.
And he still has a lot of rock bottoms to go.
He does.
But he's lost some big things here. He's lost a career that he was happy in, and he's tried his hand at school, and he can't do that either. So then the part-time jobs start coming.
Well, slowly he's losing probably the respect and trust of his wife throughout these moments, right?
I'm sure a little less. It's chipped away every time he comes home. Honey, guess what happened today?
Yeah,
God, it's such a depressing thing. He goes part-time at Home Depot. And I'm sure a lot of people have drank on the job at Home Depot. I don't know if he's just not good at getting caught or... I mean, I feel like drinking 40s is really...
Why would you drink a 40?
That seems especially smelly. Just throw back a vodka and eat a brownie or something.
Yeah. A whole 40?
That's going to make you smell for sure.
The pee a lot.
So he's fired from his part-time Home Depot job for drinking on the job.
Not rock bottom.
Nope.
Nope. Well, he does go to rehab, but then...
But what does he learn? And I will say...
some shortcuts at rehab.
I will say, like, there he was a little bit worried about sharing this hack in his story. He's like, should we include...
I mean, I was curious. I was like...
Wait, now how many pills do I have to...
No, but 100 to 150 seems like a little excessive to me.
Oh, that seems like too much. But he learns this new trick. He learns that if he takes Imodium, which is an anti-diarrhea medication, over-the-counter medication, if he takes like 100 to 150 pills like 3 times a day, he can effectively get the same sort of feeling that he got from taking opiates.
Is he getting constipated during this time now? Like,
he must.
This is going to be messing. We hear messing with his heart. I can't believe
I didn't ask that
his
question.
Stomach?
He does say that his stomach is suffering. Yeah. But why does he eat all these pills?
To get the same feeling.
I know, but it's because he doesn't know how to get illegal drugs.
Yeah.
Which we've talked about this before. Like,
yeah.
That's a skill set to be able to go out and find heroin or, whatever.
It's a whole thing. It's very risky
to
get all these drugs.
Thankfully, he's so sheltered.
Yeah, he does Imodium AD thing.
Because at least I can do it. And I don't think this is made clear. He does drop the line later, but I don't think it's clear at the start of this episode. He's stealing the Imodium.
Oh.
He's stealing boxes and boxes.
Oh, I thought he was
buying
it.
No. That's part of it. I don't think this is made clear in the episode toward later on. He kind of like glosses over it. But he's stealing the Imodium. So it's this added pressure of he might also get busted for stealing. And I feel like if he could get a hold of illegal drugs, this story would have been way more worse. Like,
Oh,
thank
yeah.
God
Yeah.
for his shelteredness then.
He's not trying to. Yeah, he's not trying to get it on the streets because that would have changed things a lot as well.
Yes, dear Lord. I don't know. Do you think that if he's gone from opiates to booze, although he doesn't really get off the booze at this point, to Imodium, like, do you think this is a better or healthier trajectory for him than if he went from, like, opiates to booze to heroin? But I mean, he's still heading in a more positive direction, right?
I mean, I think so because there's all sorts of other things that could be happening after that. If you go into getting illegal drugs from drug dealers.
And he can't really steal from the drug dealer, so he might have to.
No, and he doesn't have a lot of money.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's so many things.
Finally, this wife says, go. Why don't you go stay with your parents for a minute?
Yeah.
He's 100 pounds overweight.
Yep.
He's throwing back handfuls of Imodium. It sounds like he goes unconscious and he wakes up in the ER. They had to resuscitate him via Narcan. It's the same hospital he was in when he was a kid. His parents wonder if this is a suicide attempt and it's something they have to have a conversation about. And is this the rock bottom?
No.
No.
Still not.
It's like a country song. It's just like list the ways that this is bad.
Yeah.
He's separated from his wife. Sort of. He gets his own little shitty apartment. I'm sure it's shitty.
Mm-hmm. He's got a job again.
He's got a job. He's working for Amazon in a driving capacity. What do you definitely not do when you're driving for your job?
You shouldn't drink. That's a biggie right there, I think.
Maybe if he was sorting boxes in the warehouse.
Yeah.
Or
shipping labels. Or
putting on shipping labels,
yeah.
taping up.
But you're driving.
You're driving. Turns into a yard. Gets
not
stuck.
A driveway. That's not a driveway.
It's not a driveway. This is a yard.
Front yard.
Who's that coming out of their house? Oh,
oh.
This sheriff.
Yep.
Deeply unlucky, this guy.
Yes.
Gets a DUI. Is this his rock bottom?
No.
This is like his hobby at this point.
Yeah, we're just going. He's getting used to it a little bit.
As he puts it, his marriage is on the verge of dissolvement. Mm-hmm. Let's talk a little bit about why does his wife stay? And I want to probe further, T. He's basically calling her the only person that's keeping him alive, which I think he is. I think she is. At what point does she go from being savior to enabler? Mm-hmm. And is she always sort of got one foot in both camps? Mm-hmm. I mean, what do you think of this woman?
She also has another foot in the I'm just leaving camp.
Yeah.
I mean, he's just so self-aware of everything. I don't know what's happening like live, but he's like disgusted with it. He's disgusted with himself. He's depressed. He doesn't want to be doing that. He knows he's ruining everything and disappointing his family. You know, sometimes you might, as an addict, be like owning it or justifying it or not
downplaying
it, right? But he's, at least as he talks about it, he
hates it as much as everyone else.
Yeah.
He doesn't think there's a way out, though. And I think this is going back to when we first started talking about this, we were talking about how does this guy go from this like very loving family to an addict? Like there's nothing to blame. I think that speaks to how powerful addiction is. You can come from the best upbringing in the world, but when you're facing down the chemical changes of a drug, even the best, most grounded, most loved people sometimes can't escape it. That's how powerful it is.
Yeah.
And that's why you kind of like give him a pass. Like, it's not him. But still, her daily life, her life exists day in, day out. She's got to deal with this guy who seems to not be helping himself ever, what is she supposed to do? I mean, to be honest, I would have left back
Oh, yeah. Year 2?
to Fraud RX, probably me.
Oh, yeah.
Especially sending me to do it.
Yeah.
Oh, I would have been livid.
Yeah. It's over at that.
It's over.
point. Yeah.
She's long suffering, man.
Yeah.
She must be a really lovely person to know. His heart is enlarging. This Imodium isn't giving him the same effects as it used to, because it never does.
Thing.
It never does. And then, if anything, now the effects are starting to show up in his body in other ways. He's got stomach pain. Now, at some point, he told his wife, I'm off the Imodium. I don't know what's happening.
Yeah.
I'm eating broccoli all day, every day. I don't know. It's weird. Mystery.
Now we're like outwardly lying.
I imagine like he's just reached his hand in his pocket and he's got a handful of pills and he's about to like throw them back, and she just walks in the room and it's like, oh, what are you doing? You know? Like
Yeah.
He's got the big tub.
I don't know.
He's got the
Yeah.
big
I mean, how are you hungry for a
Walgreens
big
tub.
Costco tub.
He's dipping his hand in. It's not funny. But it's
Awful.
ridiculous to think about, you know?
Oh, yeah.
And he still doesn't see his rock bottom yet until she says, I fucking hate you and I'm done. And this woman deserves to say that.
Oh, yeah.
She deserved to say it a long time ago.
Yeah.
And of course he says, I hate myself too.
Yeah.
He's so unhealthy. He's so far gone. He's out of hope. There's literally nowhere to go from here. And that's why this is this rock bottom of sorts. And this is where this sort of like fork in the road now happens for him. And he can check out, which he tries to do. But luckily, he stops himself from unaliving himself. He screams out. He asks for help. And then he looks at it as another failure to put on the roster, but I look at it as that was his cry for help that finally put the wheels in motion to start getting him true actual help.
Oh, like it was the fact that he couldn't
even commit suicide. Right? Like he couldn't do it. It didn't happen.
I mean, it helps him realize that he wants to be alive.
Yeah. But the way that his self-belief about himself when he's in the darkest of his moments, thinking about that event, it's not, oh, that was the great positive thing that helped me change my life. It was put it on the list of failures.
Oh, wow.
That's fucked up.
That is.
But that's where he is. Like, that's how he thinks of himself. I think of it as like, all that's left for him is death. And it's either a hastening of a death through the way he's living or him taking his own life. But that's all that's on the horizon for him, unless a change steps in. So people have been talking about like video game analogies a lot lately, the zeitgeist that I've noticed. And so like the suicide attempt is like his final boss, right? That he has to beat. But his hearts are low.
Okay.
So with his last few bits of heart, he conquers the final boss, but now he's like injured and he needs to be resuscitated.
Yeah.
And that's when he gets put in the psychiatric ward in the Veterans Hospital, and it's finally he gets the shot to like heal his body. That's when he starts the drug replacement, and I'm sure he goes through all kinds of other things. But that's it.
Pretty cool that there's a shot.
Who knew? What do you think about this opioid epidemic? I mean, I just feel like the major players in this, like all the victims are all of the patients. The major players that created the systems for this to happen, it doesn't feel like anyone's really ever had to pay for these crimes.
You mean prescribing?
I'm talking about, I'm talking about doctors. I'm talking about hospitals. I'm talking about pharmaceutical companies. Like, these people lived on the fat of the land, pushing these opiates, and so many people have suffered in the wake.
Sure.
And who's ever come for them? Who's ever come for the doctors? Who's ever come from the pharmaceuticals? They get mentioned, but then it's like, oh, oops.
Yeah. Well, there are regulations. There should be regulations.
Now, but what about the past crimes? It's fucked up.
They just profited.
They made a huge profit, and then they went, oops, sorry. Oops, sorry. What's the next thing we could sell? Ozempic.
That's what I was going to say.
Get me some Ozempic. And we don't know the long-term effects of Ozempic. Yeah. It can't be good. I've seen people shrink to nothing. Like, girl, I saw you like 2 months ago. Yeah. Like, what happened to you? Diet and exercise? Lies. To me, and I'm so glad that he got sober, and this is something that he and I talked about, and he talks about here, is to have that relief of no more planning and no more stealing and no more swallowing. I mean, fuck. It was almost as if it almost felt like his suicide attempt, he had all these primers ahead of time to prepare him to swallow all those sleeping pills, because to me, that's a practice you have to get, right? To be able to throw back 100 pills at a time.
Easy for him.
For fuck's sake. But he doesn't have to do any more of this conniving shit anymore. And that is always the worst part to me of any addiction. Of course, the come down is a terrible thing, and that when you become a monster because you need your next fix. But like the plotting and the scheming and the doing and the paying or the stealing and the taking it, and it's a hobby. It's a terrible fucking job that you don't get paid for it. It's a job you pay to do for a temporary high that is like endlessly suffering yourself and endless suffering of those around you. All this guy wants is to belong and be happy, and it feels like he's finally got there. And this wife of his, and I hope they're okay, and I hope that they're in some sort of couples therapy, but I wouldn't be surprised if she is carrying or harboring a lot of resentment. Yeah. And I just hope for healing for them and for her. And I do want to encourage y'all to look at the picture. We have pictures on the This Is Actually Happening Instagram. Were you able to get before and after? It's
pretty dramatic.
It's very dramatic. So who doesn't look good before and after?
Oh, I know.
Everyone.
Yeah.
You can see pictures of his family. You can see pictures of him at the height of his addiction and his weight gain. And you could see, you can see his like current day back on track. And I know that he really wants to use his story to help others and maybe work in counseling in the VA. And I hope that he gets to do that. It feels like he's on the right track finally.
He's finally normal, where he's
all he's ever wanted. What a journey to have to get to normal.
I know.
God. Because this guy was loved.
Yeah.
This guy has been loved, and maybe too much love. Maybe someone should have backhanded him and said, get out, for real. But they didn't.
The thing is, he could have gotten it.
It could have been a lot worse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You never know, really. I think it would have been great if he just got that damn shot after
a long time ago.
Couple weeks.
Yeah. Well, I think he had a hard time admitting that he ever had a problem.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
you're hiding it.
And of course, as this stuff is happening, like we're looking at it, hindsight's 2020, and we're seeing like the whole thing, and everything to us is a rock bottom. But when you're in it, you don't know. It should be maybe to everyone else around you, but you're actively living in the addiction. You don't know that it could get worse or that it could get better.
Yeah.
You guys, it can always get better. Ask for help. Don't feel so much shame and failure that you can't ask for help. Ask for help. Someone will help you. There are ways out.
Thank you, Elly.
saying it to myself as well.
Good idea.
Do you have anything else, Dee?
No, I think that covers that.
Thank you for listening. This has been an episode of Trauma Bonded. You can find our show where podcasts are kept. If you like us, please rate and review us on Apple or other places. Rate us 5 stars and write not their uneducated, unfunny troll. Stupid.
You know, called
That's rude.
Stupid. Yeah, it's me.
We both went to college.
We do have people. Like, we are people. We have, you know.
And
why do you have to be mean about it?
Let's just say real quick, in case no one gets the point of the show.
Yeah. Can you explain it?
I know we've been doing this almost a year, but let us explain the point of the show. We are meant to be your friends at a dinner party.
You just listen to the podcast.
You just listen to the episode and you just want a space to talk about it and digest it. And we've never claimed that we know everything or have been everywhere or done everything, but people seem to ascribe this to us. But we're just supposed to be your dim-witted friends.
Yeah.
Eating the hot dog with you, talking about the show. That's all it is. And maybe we help you process, or maybe we just bring up more questions to you. But the whole point is that you just get a chance to think about what you've just heard. That's it. And it's fun for us. Yeah, maybe validate. Maybe you're hearing like, oh yeah, I was thinking that too, and it just makes your day a little bit better.
Be smarter than her.
Or you're like, what are these idiots? And you move on to listen to Crime Junkie or something else where they're smart. I don't know who's smart. 99% invisible. Go listen to that if you're so smart. But if you just want to hang out with a couple of idiots that want to talk about the show, we're free.
We're idiots, but we care about it.
We care. And we are college educated, if that's a thing that people care about. You went to the best art school. And I finally just paid for mine.
Oh, congratulations.
Thanks.
Look at this.
It could be worse. We could be trying to run the country or something. Like, look at our little show. Go review the president.
Yeah.
Any goozy. So if you like us, rate us 5 stars. Thanks to Jamie for sharing their story and giving us the opportunity to talk about it. And again, please check out the This Is Actually Happening Instagram for his family pics and before and after pic. Thanks to the This Is Actually Happening team, including Whit, Missildine, and Andrew Waite, the maker of our music and website, and Nathaniel Shamboli. And thanks to Cathy Sitzes for editing this episode. And she makes us way more smarter and funnier than we actually are. So
if you didn't edit it, you really
hate it. Thanks to Katie Capel for building those Instagram posts. You can contact us at all the places in the show notes. We are trauma bonded to the story, to the storyteller, to the listeners, and to each other. Thanks for spending time with us today. Love you, T.
Love you, Elly.